This is the Comedy Kiosk, podcast by Mondae and Munoz. Please welcome Mondae and Munoz.
Hello and welcome to the Comedy Kiosk, podcast in which we talk about news, ideas, and opinions about comedy. And we used to give some recommendations as well.
Yeah, but, it was eating too much into the time, we had more important things to discuss. So instead, we're going to work on a new format where every few episodes we're going to do a recommendation episode. Just pretty much just us talking about the shows we're watching, why we've watched them, why we recommend them, and why we think you should check them out.
So basically, we will share some examples of what makes us laugh and what we think you might enjoy as well. Let's start with the things we're watching at the moment. Of course, we will talk mostly about the comedy formats, different. It could be stand-up, it could be some panel shows, TV shows, anything, but comedy-related content. So, what are you watching at the moment that you would recommend?
Well, actually, we've just, my wife and I have just finished 2 shows about comedy, actually.
I'll be honest
recently.
with you, it's been a year, almost a year, and I'm still not used to you referring to you guys as my wife and I.
Yeah. Well, no, it's only been since October last year. So less than a year. It's okay. But you still got time. You still got time to get used to it. It's all right. All
right. But
it has happened, though. It has happened. You have to accept it, Igor. You're just going to have to accept it.
No, I don't, and you can't force me. I think by the time you hit a year, I'll be able to imagine you guys as a married couple. But for now, to me, you're just that same old lovely couple I used to see date on our shows. And when she comes, I'm still like, hey, there's David's girlfriend. And I forget that you're now wearing rings and everything.
Yeah. All right, so the shows. Now, actually, there's 3 shows I would like to mention. The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Crashing, and Hacks. All right? So, of those shows...
I've seen one out of those 3, so...
You haven't seen... Which one have you seen?
I've seen Crashing, I've seen all 3 seasons, and I've seen the first season of Mrs. Maisel, and I have given up on that series right at the beginning of the 2nd season.
Okay, why? Why did you give up on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel? Which, by the way, to give you a quick recap, it's a woman. She's the wife of a wannabe stand-up comedian, or like an amateur stand-up comedian, and then she ends up becoming a stand-up comedian, separating from her husband, and ends up becoming quite successful at it. And this is all set during the 1950s, I believe? Something like that?
50s, 60s, maybe 50s, probably.
No, I think 50s. Yeah, 50s. So it's an old time, when women weren't really in it, and she's a kind of a sassy, outspoken Jewish girl, pretty much, is the persona.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed it very much the first season because it was relatable and it was something like...
Because you see yourself as a sassy Jewish woman sometimes.
Yeah, of course.
From New York.
Yeah, exactly. A housewife with 2 children. That's how... That's.
Was it 2? I thought she just had 1.
Well, I have 2, okay? In my dream, I have 2.
Right. So sorry. Didn't mean to...
I imagine myself as a mother of 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's something that can happen. So her husband was like an open micer. He would go and do his jokes and think he's funny, but then she gets drunk and gets up on stage when they have some kind of argument or something.
Yeah, exactly. Just spills her beans.
Yeah, this like rant that she does accidentally it kills, and then she gets into performing and into like stand up, into comedy, and all this kind of stuff.
How we all started, really.
Yeah. So in the first season, it has some insights into the industry, into the community, and things like this, which I really liked in Crashing, because it's really like a step-by-step story of how one of the ways you can become a stand-up comic.
But let's go back to Mrs. Maisel right now.
Yeah. So why I stopped watching it is when it stopped being a really insightful look into the stand-up comedy industry in the 50s and turned into fantasy. So basically... First episode of the 2nd season, if I'm not mistaken. Again, small spoilers, but we hope to just get you interested in watching this series.
Yeah.
She travels to Paris and then does stand up there, and then some things that happen just didn't sit well with me. I mean, they just didn't seem realistic.
It broke the realism for you. You were just like, okay, that's taking it too far. You do expect a little bit of fantasy, but to the point where they just completely break it, you just go, like when they take it too far, and then it seems almost absurd or completely and utterly impossible. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I did, the first season I thought was so far, in a way, the best one for showing the stand-up. I'm still watching it because I still like the show in general. It's a fun show to watch, and she's a fun character to see what happens to her. But like the first season, it was definitely more interesting to see how it actually works, because you see her performing the same bit over and over and over again, and at one point even shows her, like, her and her manager discussing just changing just a little bit, like a couple of wording, which I think is very typical of the American style of stand-up, where you do the same 10 minutes for a couple of years and you just work on those 10 minutes and polish the hell out of it, where every word, every nuance, every pause, every inflection, every hand gesture, facial gesture kind of fits in. Like, it's the generalization or the stereotype of American stand-up being it's much more practiced and polished than, for example, your Irish or your British styles and things like that. Your English, your Scottish or your Irish styles, or even Australian. So that's why it was good in the beginning to watch that. But it became more about her and her love life and her relationship with her parents and things like that. And they started kind of taking away. Now comedy is just a background story. It's just what she's doing.
And I have my imagination and my dreams for that, for imagining myself as a mother of two housewife Jewish woman in New York. I don't need to watch a series about that.
Who can cook a mean brisket.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's the meanest.
The meanest brisket.
A saucy one.
Yeah, it's so saucy. So, okay, so that's The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. So I would say, out of the three that I would like to talk about, that would be a little bit about the stand-up. You can get an idea of it. It's a nice little intro, but it is unrealistic. I mean, the woman barely ever has a bad gig, and it's not a bad gig because her material sucks. It's just circumstance, but I wouldn't even say that if I had a bad gig like she has one of her bad gigs, I would be smiling from ear to ear still at the end of it,
That's why I initially compared it straight away to Crashing, because I feel that even though there are some obvious fantasy elements in that as well, since the whole premise is just, at least for the first season, just a guy sleeping on other people's couches.
Yeah, pretty much. Of actual well-known comedians or actually established comedians.
Which, like, it could happen, but also would it happen? I'm not sure.
I mean, he just got really lucky, and apparently every comedian is actually deep down, even though no matter how much of an arsehole they seem on stage, is actually really sweet and is willing to give you a couch for like even a week or more.
For free, like in New York, in the center of New York. But I think the industry, the stand-up itself, and how you go from bombing at like an open mic with 3 people at a midnight show to actually doing some circuit, getting like residency in a comedy club, getting like TV appearances and whatever, like how you go through that whole process. I think it's described and basically presented really well. Because even like I think Moscow couldn't be more different than New York in so many things. But I see that so many like places where we overlap with that, and where there's such similarities, especially in like comedians community and these kind of things, like how it works from the inside. And that's why I think if you're into comedy, if you're into stand-up, but you haven't seen Crashing, definitely go for it, because it's funny, it's wholesome, it's entertaining, but it's also a very, very good reflection and insight into the comedy industry, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. So to give a little bit of background to Crashing, the idea is it's about a comedian called Pete Holmes, and it's loosely based on his real experience of getting into stand-up and how he came from a very conservative Christian background, and how he went through a divorce, and how then he decided to say, stuff it, let's just move to New York and give stand-up a proper try, rather than just doing it as a once a week or once a month gig sort of thing that he did as a hobby, but really focus on it. But leaving everything that he knew his whole life completely ripped apart, and then him crawling his way through it. And now this is actually, like I said, based on Pete Holmes' real experiences, him actually crashing on people's couches. So apparently some people are nice. Although how nice, I don't know. The part that always gets me is the Bill Burr bit, where he literally gets Pete Holmes to come to his house to crash.
Don't spoil
No. While he's married with a kid, and isn't the wife pregnant at that point as well with like child number 2?
I don't remember.
Or she just has the baby. I can't remember. Either way, it's like, okay, either Bill Burr's the nicest guy, or he's a really irresponsible husband and father. He's inviting some guy he literally just met that night and be like, yeah, sure, buddy, you can crash in my spare room.
I think some of those encounters and stuff, they could actually, I mean, if we had a gig and one of the comics told me like, I got kicked out of my own flat or something, can I stay a couple of nights? And I would be, yeah, sure. Because I've had experiences when I traveled and performed, I remember few
But
organized.
having a new kid, a
No,
baby in the house,
no.
you would be a little bit more like, "Ooh, dude."
Wait for it. So I have been offered accommodation by comics. I have used that offer in some countries where I traveled and performed and so on. And I think, again, this kind of sense of community and let's say brotherhood or whatever,
sisterhood.
I think it's really great inside comedy. Mostly there is some toxicity as well in some circuits and so on, but mostly it's
that's shown in Crashing too. Like that is some of that toxicity.
That's shown
He's
there
actually
as well.
shown, which is really good. This is why I think out of all the shows that I've seen about like that involve stand-up comedy, it is the one that's closest to actually showing the real aspects of it.
Yeah, both like competition, but also let's say camaraderie and so on. But I would say that
And also difficulties.
Difficulties. But Bill Burr and some other, obviously they were put into the series for
Star value
and to have.
But maybe they actually do know each other. Maybe Bill Burr did give him a place. But I think the realism would be like maybe he knew Bill Burr for a little bit more, and then maybe
or when he was single and like living in some kind of one-room flat as well, not in a family house. Yeah. But yeah, all right. So what was because I haven't seen the third one that you mentioned. What was that one?
Right. Well, the third one is called Hacks. All right. Actually, I probably should have researched this a little bit better before we started. So to give you a basic idea of what this show is about is that, so there's an old comedian. She has been in the industry for, I don't know, 40, 50 years, something like She's well into her years, played brilliantly by Jean Smart. If you don't know who she is, she's been in many TV shows. She's really brilliant. So the idea is that she has a residency in Vegas. She performs at a casino called the Palmetto, and she just has a regular gig, weekly gig that she performs at. People come, and she's one of those established comics, like, I don't know, like your Dean Martins or your what's his name, the really offensive one that everyone used to really talk about. I saw him.
Ray Romano.
No, he's one of those classics. He used to get him. Yeah, Jerry, I used to talk about this, and he's the one that uses offensive humor. He uses like the word chink, for example, when he talks about Asians and stuff. And now he's like, no, you can't say this stuff anymore. And blah blah. Oh Christ, I can't remember his name.
Gilbert.
No, older. Like he literally used to hang around Sinatra and stuff like that, like that era of comedy. So anyway, she's from that period of time. She's, the sassy broad sort of thing. And, she talks about married life and all sort of stuff. And the whole idea of this show is also she has this kind of this shtick where she was the woman, she's known as like the female comedian who, when she separated from her husband, she burnt his house down. Sort of thing. She set fire to his house. So she's that sort of, fiery woman who doesn't take no shit, old school with a glass of martini, like with a martini glass in her hand. That sort of stuff, right? Cocktail dress. Oh, no, not cocktail, sorry. Ball ground sort of dress. Heels the whole lot. Anyway, so that's her. And then the other character, which is played by more of a newcomer, she's also a stand-up comedian, Hannah Einbinder. She's like this new, like 20-something, early 20s comedian, very Gen Z or whatever you want to say, like style. Like I have seen her do a stand-up bit she did on Steve Colbert just before the COVID thing. And yeah, it's very fun, it's very cool, but very arty sort of style, right? So it's not your standard comedy. So they grabbed her brilliantly for this role. They're both brilliant in their roles. And the idea is that she is the one who's become a comedy writer because she got like 1 million hits on some vlog or something. Became instant overnight success in the sense of she gets picked up for a cool show. She ends up being a writer, and then she messes up because she says something offensive on Twitter or something that is seen as offensive, or maybe something she had tweeted earlier in her career. Anyway, she gets cancelled, kicked off the show. She's desperate for any gig. She gets offered to work with this older comedian. The older comedian gets offered to work with this young comedian. Both of them reject the idea because they share an agent. They both reject from the agent, but the agent anyway kind of sets it up for them to meet, and they end up working together. But what's really good is that it shows the two different eras of comedy. It shows the old style era and someone who has been a legend and is a legend and is still doing, but in a way still doing the same material from 40 years ago. So it can be seen as dated or hack in this case. And then you see this up-and-coming comedian, her style, but how her style doesn't conform to the traditional, but how she's missing some elements. Like, in a way, they both are lacking. They both come with strong points, The younger one is all about authenticity, realism. She's like, you've got to connect with your audience. You don't just make like quick jibes and insults at people. Like, you've got to bring substance. The old one is like, you got to bring punchlines. You've actually got to bring jokes.
So
it's
like
them
a
working together.
symbiosis of old and new experience and idea or something like this.
Yeah. And you also get to see, like, the old comic, she's messed up because of the life she's had to live. You also see, when you look at someone and you think, oh, they've got it easy, yeah, it's easy to do it their way, you don't realize the background story of how they got there and the amount they had to struggle. And this is a woman who went through that era of the 60s and 70s and having to deal in a very incredibly male-dominated industry. And how much she had to take things and how much of a rough, gruff kind of no bullshit exterior she had to develop, like thick skin that she had to develop, and also a lot of the compromises she had to make that she doesn't necessarily like, but she had to. You know, it's very easy to criticize from today's perspective, which is one thing they also point out. Like, it's very easy, but at the same time, there is some justification to it. So yeah, it's a really good back and forth. I really recommend Hacks.
There is one season out.
One so far.
It finished already, so the season is out. All right.
Yeah.
What about some kind of series, maybe, if we're on the topic of TV series that are not stand-up related, comedy related, but they are comedies in their genre? So is there something that you have seen recently or you're watching at the moment that you would recommend? I can start with two that I think are not that popular or that well known. I think they kind of went under the radar with many people, but I find them brilliant. Well, three actually, and that will be my three recommendations of TV series. First one is, and I think I mentioned it before, maybe, is Upload. The first season came out last year, and the second season is coming out, if I'm not mistaken, now in August.
Ooh, yay. I wanna watch that.
Yeah, I'm very excited because first season just blew me away. I think it's one of the smartest writing of a TV series I've seen in decades.
That's the one with the dead people, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It's
Good,
so
good.
like self-referential. It's so like, it makes jokes because it's set in future.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, maybe like 20, 30 years in future.
Yeah.
Not like kind of,
Distant future.
Yeah, not like 300 years, and whatever happened now doesn't matter. But it's like things that are happening now to us, literally to them, it's kind of influenced some things, or it's kind of history they've learned. It's basically, there are many references to modern day.
Yeah.
I mean, to our modern day in this series that is set in the future. I think the idea is brilliant. Acting, jokes. I think it's just so much fun to watch. It's very wholesome, and I would recommend that definitely to catch up on the first season before the second comes out. The second one is also, it's currently running its second season, so it's one episode until it ends, if I'm not mistaken. It is Dave, and it is like
Hello.
Hello? Yeah, the other Dave.
Oh.
So, yeah.
There's another?
It's a semi-autobiographical...
Is that you?
That is Dave. He's actually Dave, I think. He's not David, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe he's David. But
Most
actually,
Daves
he's probably David.
Yeah, most Daves are Davids.
But
I don't want to say all. I don't want to assume.
But we know you as David. Like, most people call you David, but I think most people just call him Dave. But basically, it's Lil Dicky. Do you know Lil Dicky?
No.
So...
Well...
yeah.
Well, I do know a Little Dicky, but
not the
Little Dicky. No.
Yeah. So basically, he's a kind of YouTube rapper who came out like, I don't know, 10, maybe even more, 12 years ago with some funny rap songs and videos that accompany those songs that were, it's comedy rap. Even though he doesn't like to describe that, he says stand-up rap. Okay. So basically, it's like, he's a very good rapper. So he's really good in making music, but it's also quite funny and quite amusing, and there is always some kind of joke and twist and so on. Yeah. And then he went on to make a TV series about his life and how it's also a very good insight into the industry, I think. Yeah. So how you go through all those steps and how you acquire some kind of exposure, fame, opportunities, you meet the right people, all this kind of stuff. Plus, it's very, again, wholesome, it's very sweet, it's very shocking in places, and in some scenes, hilarious. Like, it's one of the rare series I watch and literally burst out laughing at some scenes, because usually, even when I watch, like, stand-up specials and stuff, to get me chuckling or at least like blowing air through my nose, it's a big success.
Yeah.
But with this one, I sometimes like actually laugh and like rewind the scene to see it again. And the third one that I wanted to mention, this one got a little bit more exposure and recognition recently because I think it won some Emmys and stuff, but it's Ted Lasso.
Oh, yeah.
And I think
That's coming back out soon, isn't it,
yeah,
as well?
the second season is out. It's airing at the moment, I think.
Oh, but it's airing. Yeah, I'm waiting until it's finished.
I think already like
I wanna binge.
2 or 3 episodes came out. I binged the first season recently, and I was so happy to see that the second season is already done and airing.
Oh, you are going to be in pain at the end of the second season then.
Why?
Because once you binge the first one and then you
I
get the second
see,
one
I
straight
see.
away, you've had a really kind of regular dose, and then to have completely cut off for another year, you're like, but I just got 2 seasons at once. Why can't I have my third now?
Yeah, that's
I want my third. Give me
that's
my cookies.
good and bad side of these kind of streaming platforms, because usually TV shows were usually on schedule, like it starts in September or something, it ends in April, kind of the season, right? The whole calendar season. But now they can kind of film them and air them whenever they want, which means sometimes they come out like 3-4 months one after the other, but sometimes we have to wait 4 years for a new season of something. So but thank God it's airing at the moment. I think it's so sweet, it's so nice, it's so like I binged the first season and I had a feeling someone is like hugging me the whole time. But there are some scenes where I genuinely
His name is Ted.
His name is Ted, where I genuinely laughed out loud. And I think the writing and timing is also brilliant.
And you know the main football guy, right? The old guy? The footballer with the dark hair who kind of looks like he belongs in Oasis.
All right, yeah.
Like, looks a bit like Liam Gallagher or whatever. Like, he looks like, and he's kind of like that. He's kind of got the dark hair, the big thick eyebrows, kind of like an Eric Cantona kind of rip. Anyway, he's actually a stand-up comedian. He's a comedy writer, stand-up comedian as well. And it's really weird because after we watched the show and I found out that, I was like, okay, I need to find his stand-up. And it's hard to find some stuff. It's like he wasn't famous for his stand-up, but he does have 1 or 2 recordings on YouTube. And when you find him, it's just like, you've seen his personality in the show. He's this gruff, like asshole-ish kind of guy with a major chip on his shoulder. He occasionally makes some funny quips, and he's actually really good with his timing. And that's what got me suspicious, because his timing was almost too perfect. There were times, there was one with that girl who was the girlfriend of his rival, and she says something like, don't you dare, da da da, and he's like, yep, fair enough. Yep, I fucked up. And I was like, oh, that was, the way he did it was just too perfect. And when I looked him up, I was like, aha, he's a stand-up comedian. And then I found his act, and he's in a pub performing, and he's this sweet, friendly guy with this very bouncy kind of voice and animated. And I'm like, what? No, that's not you. You're an angry, surly man who's going to punch the reporter in the face.
So he's a great actor.
Yeah, in other words, he's damn good.
I mean, besides the lead role, of course, Jason, I want to say Sudeikis, who is also
Sudoku.
brilliant.
That's it,
Sudoku. Yes, it's Jimmy Sudoku.
Yeah.
I've seen Nick Mohammed as well previously, who plays Nate, if I'm not mistaken, the coaching assistant.
Yes, he's also a stand-up, isn't he?
He's a comedian. I've seen him in various British like panel shows and stuff. He's done Edinburgh many times, and he's also a brilliant comic. So that's definitely recommendations.
And his assistant coach is great too.
Yeah. Beard.
Yeah.
Coach Beard.
Yeah.
So,
okay, but quick question, because you kind of mentioned it, but you didn't give what each one is technically about, like, the blurb. So Upload. What's it about? Because right now all people heard was great witty dialogue, dead people.
That's
in the future.
How you
it's
talk.
Like,
that's
what?
how you recommend stuff. Not like you. You described the plot and the twists and the
I do not
chemistry,
explain the twists.
Like that's so. If they're interested, I said it's set in future. It's about dead
people.
They will write this in Google and they will get the brief like plot summary from whatever they have.
Okay, so you don't want to tell them.
Something.
Okay, so people just suffer. Pull out your finger. Just Google, all right? Don't be lazy. Just Google, all right? It's straight from Igor's mouth. Don't be a lazy shit. Google, all right?
If I recommend it, it's worth a Google at least. If you're not going to watch it, don't watch it, but it's worth a Google. So Google, check it out, and tell us in the comments, did you enjoy any of the recommendations we've given out today?
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any show or anything any comedy special, or anything you want to recommend?
As far as comedy specials go, I can't say that I've seen... Well, of course, we've talked about this in one of the episodes recently, Bo Burnham's Inside, which I think it's just a masterpiece of production.
Artistic. Yeah,
artistic masterpiece of production, of light,
art.
of sound, of lyricism, of everything.
One man just doing it all, baby. Okay, well, the other one I'd recommend, one that I saw recently that actually was like, yep, that was good. Ellen DeGeneres. After 15 years, she has done a comedy special, recent one. It's basically, she hasn't done it for 15 years. It's her coming back, and she kind of makes fun of the fact that one of her friends says that, is she still relatable? Like, can she do relatable humor? Because she's wildly successful now and rich and all the rest. And I think the actual special is called Relatable. And it's just interesting. It just goes to show that she's still got it. She's still got a witty mind. She still knows how to play with it. She's still got the physicality, the whole lot. And, that she can still, relate to the average person and make fun of it as well, her life and the whole lot. And I would say it's good, clean comedy, and it shows that, she still has all the skills, the wit, and the whole lot. So, I would recommend it as a nice thing. My wife and I watched it, and she really enjoyed it. She was like, wow, she's actually really damn good. And I was like, that's why she was one of the big comedians of the 90s. Like, she was huge. And when people talk about really good comedians, not just female comedians, but good comedians, a lot of people talk about Ellen DeGeneres, because during her peak, she was great.
I haven't seen that, and I haven't seen actually any of those Netflix specials, kind of the return of, so there is Judd Apatow did a special.
Oh, yeah.
Seth Rogen did a special.
Did he?
Yeah.
But he was never a stand-up, was he?
He was. They all were. Like, that's how they all got the doors into the movie industry opened. But what's his name? I keep forgetting. He played in Community and in Hangover.
Oh, Joel McHale?
No, the Chinese American.
What? Ken Jeong.
Yeah.
I want to say from Hangover.
Yeah. So he did a special.
Oh,
basically,
really?
A bunch of these kind of people who did stand up last time.
He used to be a doctor
in 80s and 90s. Yeah, he used to be a doctor. So they came back with a Netflix special. But I was thinking, even Seinfeld's comeback special was very, very mediocre. So I kind of lost hope. But I will actually check out Ellen. Maybe Ellen still has it, as you say.
Yeah. But but it's her style, sort of thing. Like, kind of cute, very nice, friendly sort of stuff.
That works. That's my style too. In many ways, we're similar.
Yeah.
So, and
notice the apprehension in the little pause of, sure, Betty.
Sure.
Whatever.
I mean, we are.
Yeah.
Same hairstyle, same love for women.
Yep.
And
True.
Yeah, and then I would recommend, but this is more general than kind of current, a couple of shows, couple of stuff I'm watching, but it's not that easy to find. So most of the stuff we talked about, it's either on Netflix or Amazon Prime or something like this, available on some kind of streaming network, which you can subscribe to and watch.
And we do not recommend illegally downloading torrents, by the way.
Pirating is bad. But this is something that is very hard to find since it airs directly on TV, right? But I really enjoy it. It's some kind of British shows, TV shows, which are panel shows or quiz shows with comedians taking part. One that I would recommend if you are into into comedy more, into stand-up and into a competitive element of that, of pitching comedians against each other doing different tasks, is Taskmaster. It now airs. There is a British version and there is 5-6 more other versions around the world. Apparently New Zealand one is really great and it's airing at the moment, and I'm waiting to catch up on it if I find a source how to do it. And another one, which is House of Games. It's more like a quiz show, a game show, but comedians are often featured there, and often, more than not, they win. Whenever there is a comedian wins, which is also a very good premise for one of our future episodes, to talk about, do you have to be intelligent to be a comedian? But let's put a pin in that for now. But basically, when there is a bunch of TV personalities, sportsmen, some kind of fashion industry people, whatever, and a stand-up comic almost always wins. So apparently we're just full of useless general knowledge that and some kind of wit, I would say.
I was about to say, well, anyway, that's the topic. Not going to go there. No, not going to do it. Let's keep it short and sweet, buddy.
Let's keep it short and sweet, like Ellen DeGeneres' hair.
Yeah, it actually was good. I was looking at it going, damn, maybe I should get that one.
All right, so we have shared some of our main recommendations for now, and we will come back with these kind of episodes every now and then.
Yeah, every so often.
Yeah, gather some stuff that we have enjoyed, gather some stuff that made us laugh, and that we genuinely think you would enjoy if you enjoy this podcast and if you share our sense of humor.
Yeah, and if you want to then say if you agree or disagree, or even your own recommendations, please try to find us on some form of social media. Also, at the moment, we have set up Patreon, haven't we, Igor?
We have set up Patreon, so if you want to donate, spend some coin, and help us keep improving this podcast, spending some money on equipment and stuff like this production.
And non-squeaky chairs. We really need non-squeaky chairs.
We do need non-squeaky chairs.
What I want to add is, with the Patreon thing, please donate. If you can't donate, then I think the next best thing...
Give it to someone who can.
Yeah, well, no. Yeah, exactly. The next best thing to do is actually recommend one of our episodes to one of your friends. We would greatly appreciate that. That is worth to us more than any amount of money. So yeah, if you don't want to give us any cash, that's totally fine, but please recommend one of our episodes that you think one of your friends would appreciate it and give it to them to listen to. All right.
Yeah, so if you can't afford to donate some money, share us with someone who has more money.
Yeah.
And we appreciate that so much.
Pass the buck. Pass the buck.
Exactly. Thank you so much for listening. Let us know, did you end up watching or enjoying any of the stuff we have recommended? My name is Igor Mondae.
I'm David Munoz.
And we will hear you next time on the Comedy Kiosk. Goodbye.
Ciao.